She agreed with what Fink and his colleagues were asking for. The Trump lawyers have now all been referred by the court for potential disbarment in their home states. Wow. Joining us now is David Fink. He represented the city of Detroit in this matter. Mr. Fink, congratulations. I know this is the outcome that you were hoping for in this case. Thanks for joining us to help us understand it tonight.
Thank you for having me on.
First, let me just ask if I got any of that wrong or if I missed anything important in what the judge ruled tonight.
No, I think you did a very good job of highlighting some of the key points from the judge. The judge did a terrific job. She really honed in on the important issues, and she sent an important message, the message that we were hoping she would send. That there's consequences. There are consequences for bad acts, and that attorneys have responsibilities. They have responsibilities of honesty and integrity and staying within the rules.
How serious is it when a federal judge refers an attorney for potential disbarment? I know this is a rare and extreme act. I mean, sanctions of any kind for an attorney are a rare thing. This level of sanction is a big deal, which the judge took pains to explain in her ruling. When this happens, forgive me for not knowing this, and I poked around today sort of trying to find and I figure out, and I couldn't get a clear answer. When an attorney gets referred for disbarment like this, do they actually tend to get disbarred? That would effectively kick them out of the legal profession. It would be a huge deal.
There aren't any statistics on the likely outcome because this is so rare. It's really extraordinary, but it was right in this case. It's extraordinary. The judge issued a series of sanctions, very important ones. The first one, of course, as you noted, was paying the attorney fees for the city and the state because the public shouldn't have had to pay to defend these ridiculous claims. But that sanction isn't the most important one. The judge also ordered these 9 attorneys, every one of them, to take continuing legal education in election law because they obviously didn't understand election law before they filed these cases, and to take continuing legal education in the proper kind of pleadings that you're allowed to file. But most importantly, as you focused, the judge did something that's very, very rare. She's reporting all 9 of these attorneys to the Michigan Attorney Grievance Commission and to the disciplinary authorities of the states that the out-of-state attorneys came from. This sends a critically important message. It tells lawyers that they don't have the right to just say or do anything they want. That's not what the privilege of practicing law is about. As an attorney, we're subject to rules, we're subject to statutes, and we are subject to a set of ethics and rules of civility. And all of these lawyers violated those rules and those ethics, and they'll answer for it.
Mr. Fink, let me ask you to step back from this and take a little bit of a wider angle lens on it just for a moment. And I know that you have been embroiled in this for months and fighting very, very, very hard on behalf of your client. But what you contended, and I was fascinated to see the judge explicitly agreed tonight, was that this case was brought by the Trump lawyers not to seriously contend with any real legal issue, but for a different purpose, for what you and the judge agreed was an improper purpose. The improper purpose was to not to try to win a lawsuit, not to try to address some sort of legal wrong somewhere, but to fuel efforts being undertaken outside the courtroom to undermine the government, to undermine democracy, to try to force Trump back into power. The judge agrees with you that that's what this lawsuit was for. My question to you, stepping back from this a little bit, is do you think this lawsuit and the others like it actually did contribute to those efforts? Do you think they actually did contribute to, for example, the violence on January 6th or any of the other, frankly, ongoing efforts to try to reinstate Trump as president, even though he lost the election?
No question about it. There's absolutely no question about it. They used the federal courts to broadcast lies. They used the federal courts to tell stories that weren't true and to try to give credence to the hysterical rantings of those who pretended they knew something about the way the election had gone forward. There is no question that these lawsuits, and this lawsuit in particular, fueled the flames, fueled the fire of the insurrection that we saw on January 6th. Absolutely. That's exactly what happened. And it's very disappointing that any lawyer would do that. And it's very gratifying that a federal judge has said those lawyers now must answer for what they did. They don't get to just say, we filed a lawsuit, we didn't get what we wanted, now we're going home. They did get what they wanted. They spread lies, they gave credence to things that weren't true. And now Judge Parker has sent a critically important message, not just to these lawyers, but to the whole world, that this lawsuit was a fraud, that this lawsuit perpetrated lies, and that the people who perpetrate lies like that have to do more than just pay the attorney fees for the other side. Their bar cards are in jeopardy now. Hopefully some of these people will, maybe all of them, will suffer the real sanction of not being able to practice law anymore, because frankly, they shouldn't be.
David Fink, lawyer for the great American city of Detroit, Michigan, in this matter. Sir, thank you for your time tonight. We'll watch with great interest as all of these states, including Michigan, now field these disbarment referrals from Judge Parker. I appreciate you being here tonight, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. So the lead lawyer in this ruling that we've just been talking about, who's now facing sanctions, potentially being disbarred, is Trump lawyer Sidney Powell. You will recall the recent news as well that another high-profile Trump lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, while he is not part of this case in Michigan, Rudy Giuliani separately has had his law license suspended in New York and also in Washington, D.C., while he, too, is investigated for potentially permanent disbarment, being ejected from the legal profession because of him using the courts to try to effectuate this coup, this ability to try to force Trump back into power after losing the election. Mr. Giuliani and Ms. Powell also turn up today in what amounts to a sprawling demand for communications and records from the National Archives for Trump White House documents and from 7 other federal agencies about Trump's efforts to defy the election results and to try to stay in power after he lost. This is the Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol. We now know that committee is taking an aggressive approach to its investigations. Today, that committee's chairman, Congressman Benny Thompson, who you see here, he's also the head of the Homeland Security Committee. Today, he sent out sprawling demands for documents and communications to all these different agencies, demands that are impressive in their scope. For example, from the National Archives, they are demanding Trump White House records and communications of basically anything and everything that happened on January 6th, the day of the Capitol attack. Congresswoman Liz Cheney, one of the 2 Republicans on this committee, had previewed that the committee should try to obtain records from the White House about every communication, every movement of any principal in the White House on the day of January 6th. They are indeed doing that. But they're also demanding records, not just from January 6th, but for days, weeks, and in some cases months leading up to it about, quote, planning by the White House and others for legal or other strategies to delay, halt, or otherwise impede the electoral count. That's, for example, where the Sidney Powell and Rudy Giuliani communications come in. They want any documents and communications relating to instructions to stop or delay preparation for the transition of administrations. They wanted information about whether the Trump administration was trying to essentially stop or block the transition to the Biden administration. They want, quote, communications discussing the recognition of Joseph Biden as the winner of the 2020 presidential election. They want all documents and communications concerning the potential invocation of the Insurrection Act. From the date of the election, November 3rd, until the day before the inauguration, January 20th, they want all documents and communications related to martial law, all documents and communications concerning the use of federal law enforcement or military personnel during voting in the 2020 presidential election. I mean, the stuff that they are looking for here is breathtaking. They're looking at the whole picture of Trump trying to use the powers of his office to stay in the presidency after losing the election. But that's just a portion of what they're asking for in terms of White House records. Look at what they want from the Pentagon. Again, and this is just a sliver of it. All documents and communications related to instructions to stop or delay the administration of activities to prepare for the transition of administrations. Did he try to rope the Pentagon into that kind of planning? All documents and communications related to the potential use of military power to impede or ensure the peaceful transition of power between the time of the election up through and including the inauguration of President Biden. All documents and communications concerning